This Netflix movie list has more twists than a bag of pretzels. That's because today we're talking about the most twist-filled Netflix movies that do a great job of manipulating your mind. The closer we get to the number one spot, the more twist-filled these flicks become.
It's trippy, huh?
But let's start with my bottom pick, which is a deliciously twisted flick titled Delicious. In this movie, a rich English family are vacationing in France, and after an incident, they decide to hire a woman that they don't know to be their housekeeper while they're on vacation. She seems like a nice young woman at first, but as Delicious carries on, you realize she's definitely up to something sinister. Delicious has quite a bit to say about class warfare. In fact, the rich folks in this movie are pretty revolting, and honestly, so is the major twist in this movie. It's ultimately headed towards somewhere fairly repulsive, yet it's a slow burn. It takes quite a while getting there, maybe too long in my opinion, which is why it's my number 10 pick. But if you like twisted little thrillers, this one takes some patience, but it ultimately goes to a very twisted place. But my next pick is even more twisted. It comes from South Korea, and you do not have to wait for this one to get started. Things kick off pretty early in The Call. If you've ever seen the Dennis Quaid film Frequency, where he's talking to his future son over a ham radio across time, The Call is very similar. You've got two women from two different time periods that are able to communicate over a phone. Similar to Frequency, there's a serial killer in the mix, so it has a lot in common, but that's a PG-13, almost wholesome movie. The Call is just a dark movie from Korea. I'll say if you like serial killer mystery movies, The Call is a great one. It's just got this heavy supernatural element applied to it as well that honestly makes for some interesting sequences that just couldn't play out any other way. Now, my number 8 selection is a horror flick, but it's one of the newest ones available on Netflix. In fact, they just added it, and it's a 2025 release titled Until Dawn.
I'm looking for my sister. Does she look familiar to you?
She's gone missing.
I didn't say that. Do a lot of people go missing around here?
Now, if that name sounds familiar, this is based on an old PlayStation game, a game I played, yet the movie's quite different, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, I'll say, Until Dawn starts off in a way that seems like it's going to be a terrifying movie. I mean, my wife was not sure if she was going to be able to sit through it. After you get to about the 30-minute mark, though, the little time manipulation gimmick, or, the thing that this horror movie is about, it just becomes more and more interesting, and the scare factor in Until Dawn kind of slopes off. Now, that may sound like a bad thing, yet I found this to be a refreshing horror movie. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of elements to it that are pretty boilerplate and familiar, but everything else, all the new creative ideas, I thought were great. I mean, this would make an amazing Halloween season watch. I'll be surprised if it's still on Netflix that long, though. Now, it's my first time mentioning Until Dawn here on the YouTube channel, but I mentioned it in my emails forever ago, back when it first released for a home premiere. Dangerous Animals and The Luckiest Man in America are just a few featured in recent emails. But easily the most mind-bending Netflix original movie ever produced is easily the most mind-bending thing on this list, and that's because it's from writer-director Charlie Kaufman. I'm thinking of Ending Things. Now, if that name sounds familiar, he's famous for writing movies like Being John Malkovich, Adaptation with Nicolas Cage, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and more, but this is one that he directed, and whenever he's behind the camera, it's way more bizarre. Like, if you've never seen Synecdoche, New York, I'm thinking of Ending Things is somehow weirder, yet it also somehow makes more sense, which somehow makes less sense to me. Now, I'll warn you now, this movie is only for people who like really bizarre stuff. I mean, this just goes into such mind-warping directions. It's like a dream. It feels like a nightmare, yet it's mind-blowing to me how he can do that. How does this movie actually feel as glued together as it does? Same goes for David Lynch movies. I do not understand how they can be so strange and somehow still make so much sense. This is one of those kinds of movies. Not really as dark and twisted as a David Lynch movie, but I would say, if you love decoding David Lynch flicks, I'm Thinking of Ending Things has a very different flavor, but it's a similar viewing experience. My number 6 pick is one from Spain that is got a little bit of a soap opera vibe, but it has so many twists and turns and a subtle supernatural element that really elevate Mirage. Now, this movie revolves around a lightning storm that actually creates a bit of a time paradox where things change in kind of a subtle yet life-altering way. If you've ever seen a time manipulation movie before, you know if you change anything in the future, then it ends up changing things in your present. That's what happens in this movie. Through a chance encounter across time, a woman saves a young boy's life. Seems like a great thing, yet it has dire consequences for her life. Now, even though that sounds like some intense supernatural stuff, Mirage does a great job of having this event occur, and then they step away from the supernatural stuff, and this woman is stuck in this almost untenable situation. I'm not going to quite say what happens to her, but she desperately needs to put things back the way they were. If you end up enjoying Mirage, you like how many twists that just compile on top of it. This director did another movie that I highly recommend titled The Invisible Guest. That movie, it's not on Netflix right now. It's going to be featured in a video I'm releasing later this week, so be on the lookout for that. Next up, I've got a morbid one. It's really dark, actually, but the twist in this one is actually basically shown to you in the very first scene.
What's happening? What's happening? Oh my God. You know what you have to do.
And then you get to spend quite a while sitting back and waiting to see just what in the hell is happening in the perfection. Now, this movie revolves around 2 prodigy cello players that are actually kind of at the top of their game, very much like the movie Whiplash, backstabbery, double-crossy kind of stuff, as they're both at the height of their musical careers. But like everything else on this list, things are not what they seem in the perfection. There's actually something a lot wilder going on than what you get on the surface level, and it all makes sense and ends up being this really kind of dark, twisted movie. It's a wild ride, but I was pleasantly surprised by this Netflix original. Didn't happen a whole lot. This one surprised me. In case you didn't know, last week I've released a video talking about movies that actually predicted the future. My bottom pick on that list, though, was not a movie. It was actually an episode of Black Mirror titled Nosedive. I'm doing the same thing here, but Bandersnatch made my number 4 selection. Now, Bandersnatch is a special episode of Black Mirror. It's not tied to any one season, and depending on how you watch it, it could be as long as a feature-length film. The reason I say that is because this is a very unique Netflix presentation. You, the viewer, have to make decisions along the way. Now, they've done quite a few things like this. They're mostly made for kids, and they're fun. I do things like this with my kids on Netflix all the time. Bandersnatch is not only not appropriate for kids, but it makes brilliant use of this little feature where you essentially keep having forks in the road and you have to choose left or right, and they completely change the outcome. Yet this is so much more than just a gimmick. It actually serves this story perfectly and makes for a just completely unique viewing experience that will break your brain, even though you are in control of the twists and how they occur. This one will still take you by surprise. I highly recommend it. Because I know I'm going to get questions in the comments, yes, this full Commando shirt is brand new. Yes, it's available at darrenvandam.com/shop. We've also got Late Night with Conan the Barbarian, Hasta La Vista, and a bunch of other classic designs you've seen me wear here before. The shirts are 100% cotton, but they are ridiculously soft, and what I love about them is they stay soft and they stay black. I've got some I've been washing for over a year. They are as black as the day I got them. They're also a fitted design. You can see it kind of hugs me kind of tight, meaning if you like your shirts loose, definitely consider getting a size up. It's a great way to support this channel while also showing off your fantastic taste in movies. Yet my number 3 pick is another wild one from Spain, yet this one does have supernatural sci-fi elements that completely take over everything in the platform. As complicated as this movie is, the setup here is pretty simple. A man wakes up in a small cell, he's got one roommate, and a platform lowers every single day, loaded with food. The catch is that you're left with whatever people above you did not eat. To complicate things further, every single month you wake up in a new room on a different level, meaning you're either getting more food, less food, or potentially no food. Now, the metaphor here is pretty on the nose, almost too much on the nose for my taste, but my goodness, do I love this movie. It makes such great use of it and goes into insane directions. Now, this one's so mind-bending, I honestly don't fully understand everything they were trying to say by the end, but I did understand everything they were trying to say along the way, and I loved this movie for it. This is one you could think about for days, and if you really get into it, there is a sequel. It's titled The Platform 2. I didn't find it to be nearly as good because it rehashed a lot of things, whereas this first one is just fresh, new, and my goodness, does it make great use of a simple metaphor. My number 2 pick is another Netflix original movie that completely blew me away. Like, so often they're so repetitive or derivative and just feel very much like a Netflix movie. Yet my next one is one that they actually purchased on the festival circuit, and it stands out as feeling like something unique and fresh as a Netflix original. We're talking about It's What's Inside.
If you think of your brain as a hard drive, then this just transfers the files. It's trippy, huh?
This too, very simple setup. You've got some young 20-something friends, longtime friends, meeting up for a little bit of a party. One of them shows up, a guy who's very successful in the technology industries, and he brings a new device with him, this experimental device that basically swaps your brain, takes your mind and puts it into someone else. What they do in the movie, though, is they use it like a party game. They all plug into it, and they all, in a flash, end up in someone else's body, very much like the movie Freaky Friday, except you've got a large group of people here, and it's people with secrets about each other, and not just gossipy secrets either, no, like kind of life-altering secrets that they actually begin to pull out of one another, as you never really know who you're actually talking to in this movie. Just like The Platform, it's a simple setup, and they exploit the hell out of it. They make great use of it. There's also some clever little filmmaking touches that help kind of put you into the other person's body, where you understand who's talking to who. It's not going to break your brain, but it is kind of tricky to keep up with, but it's fun to try to keep up with It's What's Inside. But after all of that, what could be my number 1 pick? It's going to disappoint some of you because it's an Oscar winner. Something that rarely happens on this channel, where an Oscar winner ends up being my number 1 pick, but my goodness, is Parasite, loaded with top quality twists. I mean, this one still to this day has twists in it that absolutely blow my mind. On top of it being kind of a fun, lively movie from South Korea. I mean, on that first watch, you really have no idea what's about to happen, yet you know something's simmering underneath the surface. This movie didn't just surprise me as to how good it was, it surprised me every 15 minutes or more. I was surprised by something that was happening in this movie, especially once you get past the halfway point. It also has a fair amount to say about class structures, very much like Delicious, yet I think it has a lot more to say and says it a lot better than Delicious did. I mean, in terms of a movie with twists and turns, Parasite is hard to top. But here's a recap of the list. Don't forget to sign up for my free email newsletter, or go check out one of the shirt designs at darrenvandam.com. But thanks for checking out this special Netflix episode, and you will see me on the next one.